So this is another lecture about static verification. So we talk about dynamic verification, which tests our code during runtime. So we run the code, and then we know if the code does what we want the code to do, right? So this is dynamic verification. Well, static verification is like without running the code, like before we run the code, and we check the code, like find some obvious mistakes, and typos and some like other things. Like we talk about like TypeScript, which is another way of static verification. Like without running the code, we check whether there's any tab errors, like using like TypeScript, check the tab, make sure it's tab safe. Well, linting is another one, like for static verification. So why do we care about like linting and what linting does? So before we explain what is linting, code styles. So in the very first week, like we got some question like, is there a code style guideline for 1531, or what kind of code style we want to follow? So you kind of know that code styles is important. Like, should we use tabs? Should we use like how do we use comment? Like how do we name the variable? So this is about code styles. And another important thing here is that programs must be written for people to rate, not for machine to rate. So we write correct codes. It does what we want them to do, but sometimes it can be hard to rate. So this may introduce like issues for working as a team. Like you write a perfect code for you, like you can read your code only, and your team members cannot read that easily. And it's very hard to debug and find like some issues if the code is not written in a good style. So why do we care about style? So first of all, it's easy to follow the code with consistent white space. Right? So if you have like 2 white space in one line and 4 white space for another line, it's hard to read. Right? And it's easy to visually glance at a code like for similar patterns. So it's easy to read not only for you, but also for your team members. And also when we open source our code, it's also easy to read for everyone else. Okay. And it's also easy to debug. So we'll see some examples of bad styled code. Is the projector clear enough? Like I feel today it's a bit blur. Just myself, or is it all good? Blur? Yeah. It's quite. Yeah, I can try. Lightening. Board 1 of. Nothing changed. Oh. Okay, what about board 2? Oh my goodness. Turn the room lights to 50%. Works? Works? Okay, cool, great. Okay, so here's an example of bad styled code. What is bad about this one? Function name, yes, that's a good one. Here? It should have some indents or white space. Yes. Anything else?
The new line on the folder, lines 4 and 5.
Here, a new line after 4. Yep. Cool. Anything else? Huh? Sorry?
Variable names like they just run letters, like B, C, G.
Yes, the variable names. Yes, that's right. So yeah.
And like a space after hello, like
Hello, yeah, maybe this one is intentional, like, yeah. Maybe they want to have some space between the a couple of hellos when we console log. So this one is fine. Here's another example of good styled code. So you may have noticed like we can find the errors, or not error, but bad styles by ourselves, and like you can fix the style by yourself. It's workable, but is there any way like can help us with the process? So for example, when we talk about JS testing, we introduced like a pipeline, like continuous integration, like a service to help us with the process. Like when we check the tabs, like we can also manually check the tabs, but it's great like with TypeScript, it checks the tabs for us. So is there anything like any tool, any service that we can use directly to help us identify the bad styles and even fix that for us. That would be amazing, right? Okay, so before we talk about like any tool or service that help us with the process, who decides on the styles? So for example, in JavaScript, for the strings, we can either use single quotes or double quotes, right? And for the white space between at the start of each line, like we can use 2 white space, and we can also use tabs, right? So as long as it's consistent and it's easy to use, we cannot say it's wrong. So who decide these like styles? In some of your previous courses, for example, 1531 or also other courses, you may be given a style to follow. Like I know some other courses like 3311, it also have some convention that you need to follow. So sometimes this style is defined by the organization that you are in. Like for different organizations, they may have different like styles, right? And also there are some public available style guides from big companies. So for example, Google, Facebook, Microsoft, they all have their own style guide. So for example, for Google, so this is Google's style guide. It's public available. When you read some open source code from Google, you can, like, this style guide can also be helpful when you work on it and build on top of it. Let's have a look. For example, JavaScript style guide. It's a big document. For example, braces formatting. So it's very detailed guideline, like how to use empty blocks, block indentation, array literals. So there are like such kind of style guides for you. Like if without the tool or service that help us automate this process, there are still some guidelines that we can follow. And in 1531, we use a commonly, like we derive from a commonly used style guide, and we made some changes to make it the style consistent with the other courses in CSE. So we also have a style guide for 1531. Okay, so now for different organizations, different institutions, we have different style guide. Okay, so how can we automate the process to make sure like the code in 1531 or in your group is consistent and follows the style guide? So now we introduce a new concept called linter. Okay. So in a more proper software engineering projects or larger software engineering projects, we tend to lint the code by using some software that analyzes your code and automatically make adjustment. It's called linter. We call the programs that lint our code linters. So what does a linter do? It's another way of static verification that verify our code without running our code. So it's another way of static verification. And a linter does static analysis to identify style issues. Like in the example, like we showed at the beginning, the bad style code, like it's not consistent with the white spaces, right? In that example, so linter help us identify such issues, and also semantic issues. Shows some potential bugs to us, like before running the code. However, this is something like linter cannot help us with. So for example, the variable names that we see in the bad style example, we have A, B, C, D. Right? So the name of the variables or the name of the functions, like when it's bad, linter cannot help us with that. So these are how we name the variables. So linter cannot help us. So it still depends on our humans to define the names. And also, the concept of linter isn't exclusive to JavaScript. Although, like, linter is more popular in JavaScript, but it's not exclusive to JavaScript. So we can also have linter for Python and also other programming languages. Okay, so for JavaScript, what is the popular tool or service that we can use to lint our code? So what is the popular linter? Hey. It's the ESLint. So there are multiple other service or tools, but the most popular one is ESLint. And this is also the one that we use in 1531. So similar with TypeScript or Jest testing, it's another dependency that we need to install. Like we are using others' code to help us with our code. So it's another dependency that we need to use. It's ESLint. And with ESLint, it detects errors, fix issues. Yep. Checking online. All good. Cool. So how do we install this dependency? It's similar with Jest or TypeScript. We use npm install safedev to ESLint. Do you remember what is safedev? Yes, it adds to the dev dependencies. Okay, so it's nothing related to the production phase. So we only use this dependency for development. Okay, so to demo ESLint, I'm going to use the project that we use for continuous integration. Okay, so this was the project that we use because there's less code in it, so it's easy to demo. Okay, so just a quick look at the project that we used in previous lectures. So we had this GitLab CI YAML file, we had a JSLab JS file, and we also have a test file, Jest test file, package log.json, and git ignore. Okay, so this is basically everything we have in this project. So let's try to install ESLint together. Okay. So install safedev ESLint. Okay, cool, it's done. So now when we check back to the package.json file, another dev dependency is added here, the ESLint. Okay, cool. So we have installed it properly. Great. So we need a file, like another file, that tells our project what is the style guideline. Right. So when the ESLint check our code for the style, they need to have a style guideline. Right? Because for different organizations, different situations, we have different guidelines. So we need to tell them what is the guideline. So for 1531, we provide you with this ESLint struct.js file, and it includes all the guideline. But now let's try to create like a similar one together. Like how to get such kind of guideline. It's by using, let's go back here. Okay, so before I create this guideline, after we have installed the dependency, again in this module folder, under the bin, you can see a new file is called ESLint is created. So it's similar with like Jest we used before. Like we can, like this. So we can node modules -bin, and before we use the Jest, and also try to use TS node or TSC. So now we are using ESLint. So how to create this guideline is by using --init. Okay, so this setup process, you do not need to worry too much about that. It's just for you, like if you are curious how we have different guideline, different style guideline for different projects. So this is the process. But for 1531, we provide this guideline to you. Okay. So let's. Okay. It will ask you some questions. So we want them to check the syntax and problems. What type of modules does your project use? We use JavaScript. What framework do we use? For now, none of these. Do we use TypeScript? Yes. Where does your code run? Node. How would you like to define a style for our projects? Whether we use a popular style guide or answer some questions about our style. So let's use this custom one. What format do you want your config file to be in? JavaScript. What style of indentation do you want to use? Whether it's tab or spaces. Let's use which one? Space. Okay. What codes do you want to use for strings? Double or single? Let's use single for now. Doesn't matter. Do we require semicolons? Yes. Would you like to install them now? Yes. Okay, which package manager do we want to use? We use npm. Okay, so it's starting to install. Good. So now after we install, set up, init this ESLint, there should be a new file created, which is the ESLint file. Okay, and this is the file that we provided to you for 1531, and we also made some modification to it to be consistent with the other courses here at CSE. So this is the one that we just created using the -- init. Okay, it's very brief. It doesn't have too much content in it. The reason is that we haven't put in any customized style guide for it. But you can see here we have some rules. For example, the indent either is arrow or like for white space. The codes will be either arrow or single quote. Like whether we require a semicolon after each line. Yes, we require that. Otherwise, it's an arrow. Okay. So now we have init ESLint for our project. Cool. So now how do we use that? Okay, so we have installed the dependency. We have also init the project with ESLint. We now have a style guide. How do we use it? Like how does it check our code for styles? Okay, so this is by using this command. Okay, so now I need to create a file with our bad code, like bad style code. So I'm going to copy this one and create a new file called mycode.js and I pass it here. Okay, now I can use that by using mycode.js. Okay, so now we can see that a couple of errors. What are they? So let's read through them. So for example, the first error is expected indentation of 4 spaces but font 5. Okay, the next one is expected indentation of 4 spaces but font 6. So all of these problems here about indentations. So let's try to solve them. What about this one? This should be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I solved the sum of them, and then I can run this ESLint again on this code. Okay, error message is less now because we solved some of the problems. Okay, now all of them are about like indentation, but I can add another error message to it. For example, let's define an unused variable, maybe just 9. Oops. So this unused variable is never used in my file, in this mycode.js file. So let's run this ESLint again. Okay, so now another new error message is created. It says unused is assigned to a value but never used. Okay, so this is very useful, right? Another very powerful feature of ESLint is that it can fix everything for us. Okay, so what I can do is by adding a -- fix to it. Okay, the code has been changed. Have you seen that? Okay, let me demo it again. So I'm going to create some bad styles. Okay, so it's very bad now. Okay. And then I'm going to run this fix. Okay, look at my code now. Okay, look at my code. 1, 2, 3, go. See the change? Yeah? Yeah? Yep, cool. But something that haven't been changed, for example, here, we do not need another new line after 4, right? So ESLint can solve some of the problem and many of the problem. But we can also add more rules to it if we have like more customized rules. We can add them here, and it can also fix it for us. For example, I can also change that. For example, for quotes, now my rule is ask everything to be single quote. Like for the strings need to be single quote. I can change it to double. Okay, and now let us run without the fix and run the code. Okay, the strings must use double quotes, so we can customize the style guide. Okay, and we can also fix that. Okay, fixed. Quite straightforward, right? So this is linting, like linter or ESLint. Okay. Yeah, question.
It was originally single quotes.
Uh huh.
But then you change anything in the file to make it double quotes.
Uh huh.
It was just originally single quotes, but error did not detect it.
So before in this file, like ESLint file, like we asked the code to be single before. Now I changed that to double.
Oh, right.
So the guideline changed. Right? Yep.
So what do the errors, like error, comment, whatever?
What does that error mean here?
No, like in the ESLint.js.
Uh huh.
It says error, comma, init, error, comma, double, error, comma, all.
Yep.
Error.
So these are the rules in our guideline. So for example, this code 1. So if so it will be either double or error. So if the codes for our strings in our JS file are double quotes, so no error will be printed out. Otherwise, there will be an error message. Yeah. So we can also change this error to single. It will be the same with like removing this one. So it means that we allow both single and double for the codes. But we can also remove that. For example, we remove these codes about like any rule about the codes, and we change some of the codes to single, some of them remains double, like that. Okay? So it's not consistent, but we do not have a rule to force the consistency on the codes. And now we run ESLint here. No error message, even though it's not consistent, because we remove that rule. Yep.
So if there's something where you can have more than 2 things, you can say case 1, case 2 on the error so that it only does those 2 cases.
I'm not too sure, but let us have a try. For example, we can have single, double, or error, like that, like multiple, and see if there's an error message. Yeah, it doesn't allow here, at least for this case.
So if you put single and double, it will have no error message as well.
Let's have a look. There's an error message because it's invalid. Yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't allow us to do that. So if we really do not mind like whether we use single or double quotes, we can just remove the rule about the quotes.
But put single and double plus an error message.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, so we have already mentioned everything up. Okay, so another use for about ESLint is we can disable some of the lines to check the style. by using ESLint disable next line. Oops. Yeah. Yep. So for example, in our my code, let's create some batch style. For example, we use some random white space before this console log. However, by using this ESLint disable next line, the next line will not be checked for styles. Okay, let's have a try. Oops. Yep, so there's no error message like for the style on this line, like line 9, because we disabled next line for checking the style. In 1531, we do not encourage you to use too much like disable next line because we want to check the styles. Like also help you being consistent with the style in your code. However, there are some like rare cases that the style is very tricky that you can use that like for a couple of times in the project, but not too many times. Okay. One more thing is called disable everything about this file. So we can use ESLint disable at the top of a file. Then anything in this file will not be checked for styles. So we can have some random styles like this, like that. However, by using ESLint disable, there's no error message for this file. Yep. So what is the reason for doing that? Yeah, okay, so that's a good question. So for example, in our lecture code, in like every file was linted, like all the file in our lecture code, the project was linted. However, for this example, like we want to show an example of bad code, like bad style code, but we do not want to every time, like when we the pipeline is triggered, I will print out some error message about the style on this code. So it's intentionally to be bad style. So this is one example.
So the only time we should use this is if we're intentionally trying to write code.
I cannot say that is the only occasion that we want to disable that. Yeah, but this is for another example might be you have an unfinished file, like you are still working on it. Yeah, maybe you can temporarily use like ESLint disable for a moment. Yep, makes sense. Maybe there are other occasions that you want to use that. Yep, any questions so far? All good? Where were we? Yep, we have shown this. Okay, so so when we talk about JS or TypeScript like TS Node or TSC, we add scripts to our package.json file. And then we can use npm run test or npm tsc or npm ts node, right? So for linting is the same. We can also add the scripts to our JS file like this. We can add this. We can add this to our package.js file. Now, instead of running like node modules .bin ESLint, we can simply run npm run and then lint and my code.js. Okay, and now it not only checks my my code file because I added directory here, like all the JS file in this folder will be checked for style. Yeah, but you can also remove this if you want to check the style for a specified file. So for example, if you remove this one, okay, and then you can run npm run lint my code only, and it only works on my code.js file. Cool. Any question? All good? All good? Okay, cool. Okay, so similar with JS test and also TypeScript check, like we put in our CA.YAML file, like for our pipeline. We can also add our linting, like check for add another script in our pipeline and check for the styles by adding another job to it, like linting, and in this check stage. And the script we run here is npm run lint. So this is similar when we add like npm run tsc and npm run test. Okay. So here we provide more information on how to set up ESLint for TypeScript, for JS test. Yep, cool. So all of these, like for the setting up, in the projects and the labs, either we provide you with an instruction that you can follow step by step, otherwise we'll set those up for you. So we do not want you to spend too much energy on setting up the environment. Okay, you need to know how to use that and why we are using it, and that will be fine. Okay, but we provide everything in the slide. So if you are curious to know how you set up everything, you can follow this step. Okay, another big disclaimer: don't be stressed about setting up all of this. Okay. Otherwise, that's everything about ESLint. If you do not have any other question,